So thank you for being with us today. Thank you for being part of this spiritual community. We know you have choices in the world that we live in at the moment, and we're glad you chose to be with us. Today, we formally complete August's topic of connection. Now, obviously, we don't ever stop talking about connection because there is never a single second that any one of us is not connected with the whole of life. We forget. We don't know it, or we have a skewed perception of what connection means. And the truth is, there never is, there never was, there never can be 1 second when we are not connected in the divine radiance or the all that is, or whatever you want to call this one mind, this infinite mind that we live in and that lives through each of us all the time. And because each one of us is already connected in the one mind, we are also already connected to each other. By default, we can't help it. That's just how it works. And we forget, and we think connection means we have to actually be in the same room and share oxygen or physical presence or whatever with each other, but nothing is actually further from the truth. We already are connected. We already are entwined. We already are interdependent. That's just how it is. And what's been fun for me this last week, somebody, and we could say that Google is spying on me, but I don't believe that either. Somebody will be talking about freedom and my mail will pop up and give me a email about freedom. It's like this interconnectedness is so much a part of daily life that it feels almost magical. And it's not. It's just that entrainment that each of us already has in that one mind and with each other. And you know this is true for you because you'll think about somebody and they'll call. You think about somebody and you'll hear from them or you'll see something that they've done. We are already connected and we forget. And then we remember. So some of you will remember the story that I've told a couple of times called Indra's net. It comes out of the Hindu scriptures. And it's this god in the Hindu tradition, and he made a net that's just this giant woven structure that looks like a giant fishing net, and it goes to infinity in all directions. And every place where the strings cross, because it is woven, every place where the strings cross, a multifaceted jewel hangs down. And every single being is represented by a jewel on the net. Every single being. And every jewel reflects every other being. Every jewel reflects every other jewel. And so every being reflects that interconnectedness of every other being. And so none of us lives in isolation or separately. We think we do, and we don't. So here's where I begin to shift today's talk. If you're already connected to everyone and everything, and to God as you recognize it, this is fun, right? There's no way you can actually screw any of that up. With this as baseline information, I'm going to use a quote from the closing lines of Mary Oliver's poem, The Summer Day. Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Who or what do you wish to do or be or become? And how do we show up together? And how do we wish to show up in the world? And what do we keep that has been of value, that has been created in these last 18 months? And what do you keep that you have created that has added value to your life? Maybe there were some things you created out of necessity. I know that we created a bunch of things out of necessity. Online classes, and at least for a while, online Sunday services. We also created a daily morning practice because it seemed to fill a gap and a desire that we each had individually and collectively way back in March of last year. And it's still going strong. It's changed a little bit. It's morphed as things do, as life does. But it's still there, and it's still providing a service to those who choose to show up, because that's how it works. And some of the things we created were things that we always wanted to do, but we never got around to doing them, like live streaming on Sundays. And being able to reach out and include others who weren't part of Tucson because they lived someplace else. Or maybe people didn't drive, or they were homebound, or they just didn't feel like being sociable, or any of a dozen other reasons. And once we have a license that allows us to record and broadcast our band's live music, our recordings will even be better. Last time I checked, we had 72 YouTube subscribers, and we had 90 views in the last month. That's actually 30 people per Sunday, because I didn't post last week's message because it was breakout rooms. So we had the people who show up here, plus 30 more people who are connected to this community. And with the 38 that we had today, and the 30 people online, we're not that far from the 75 people we had showing up in person at the Gregory back in January of 2020. It's different people, because people come and go. That's just the nature of things. But we're still reaching out, we're still connecting. And I have a request for you, and that is you reach out to your CSLT friends or any other friends that you haven't seen in a while, or you haven't talked to on the phone in a while, or texted with in a while. Call them, text them, send them an email. Do not invite them to church. Do not invite them to service. This isn't about that. We don't pressure people to conform. We welcome them, we allow them, we encourage them, and we let people do what they feel called to do. And yes, I am encouraging you to reach out to your friends. But if you thought of somebody when I said that, that's your innate wisdom telling you that this is somebody that you either would benefit from touching, or that they would benefit from being touched by you. So take advantage of this time and space that we have to make those connections more solid and make those connections feel more real. It's not just doing church that makes us be connected. It's us deciding to be connected and us intending to be connected. That we know it's going on, because it's already happening. We're just not noticing. Those faceted crystals on Indra's net are already reflecting to each other and receiving the reflections from each other, whether we're aware of it or not. And so our job is to pay attention and to notice and to make use of this skill and ability that we have. So now I'm finally going to get to today's talk title, How Do We Be? Or less awkwardly, how do we want to be? Or making it personal, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And from today's daily reading in the Science of Mind magazine, there are 2 quotes. The first is from Abraham Maslow. Musicians make music. Artists paint. Writers write. If they are to be ultimately at peace with themselves. We do what's within us, we bring it out, because that's how we become, we sense our wholeness within ourselves. And then the second quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes from the Science of Mind text: "The word that we speak is the law of our lives, and nothing hinders its operation but ourselves." The writer of today's daily reading is Dr. Ron Fox, who's got a center in Florida on the East Coast. And he told an old Hebrew story in today's daily reading about a rabbi named Zuzia, who on his deathbed began to cry. One of his disciples asked him why he was crying. He said, "In my next life, they will not ask me why I wasn't Moses or some great leader. They will ask me why I was not Zuzia." Each one of us has stuff to do that's only ours to do. Nobody else can do our stuff. And we have to decide that we're going to do it. And our stuff might not be seen in the eyes of the world as important. And it may not make us famous. But if you think about the people that you look up to, would the world think that they were important? There's a practice that I've used in classes and workshops, and we've even done it once on a Sunday, though it didn't really work that well because it's not possible to compress it into a 20-minute time slot. Some of you have done this one with me, or even before I came around. It's called Who I Came Here to Be. Essentially, it goes like this. If you want to take notes and do it later, you're welcome to do that. You think of 5 to 7 people from your life that you admire or look up to. And it doesn't matter if they're real people or not. It doesn't matter if they're storybook characters or people from movies that you've watched. It doesn't matter if they're living or dead. It's just people that you look up to. And you write their names down. 5 to 7 people. And then you think about each one of those people and the top 3 qualities or attributes that they have that you admire about them. How they show up in the world. How they show up in the story. How you connect with them in your mind. And then after you've finished your list, and this will take a while, which is why it didn't work very well in 20 minutes, you start looking at the list of these 5 to 7 people and these qualities that you've written down or attributes that you've written down. And you start looking for common themes. You start looking for things that you admire in all these different people that are the same. And then you start making a new list of these common themes that show up in all these different people. And after you've come up with somewhere between 3 and 7, you look at that list. Here's a surprise, and not really. It's these 3 to 7 attributes or qualities that are who you've come here to be. The first time I did this exercise, I didn't like what I picked. It was just too nice. It was just too kind. And I did this exercise again earlier this month because I was using it in something else I was doing. I picked one real person. I picked one character from a movie that I admired. And I picked one character from a book. And the rest were people that I have known in my past. And people that I have admired something about them. Then after I did the whole thing, and I started distilling the qualities of these people, I came up with 7 things. They were smart. They were caring. They were joyful. They were human. There was nothing special about them. They were human. They were communicative. They were capable. and they had the ability to focus. And even the ones who were leaders, what I admired about them was that they were capable, smart, focused, and communicated well, and they cared about the people they were connecting with. We make up stories about why we can't be who we've come to be here, what we're supposed to do. We want everything in the outside world to line up right first. I promise you it won't. And we've got it backwards anyway. In yesterday's daily reading for morning practice, we read from 365 Days of Richer Living, written by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. The headline for the day's reading, "The universe is flexible." It starts out, "Change is the law of human experience, for only God is permanent. The infinite mind forever conceives new ideas. The infinite law forever produces new forms. In the midst of this flexibility, I live, move, and have my being. Life is consciousness flowing through forms, but is never restricted by forms. Therefore, the situations in my world cannot restrict me long. The instant I think a new thought, a new form begins to appear." You know the phrase, you've probably said it. Change your thinking, change your life. If we're waiting for our exterior world to line up the way we want it to before we act, we will wait a very long time. Our external world gives us what we believe. If we want something different on the outside, we have to create and nurture a different frame of mind on the inside. It's really inconvenient, and it's completely true. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's up to us. Which reminds me, this is the Sunday that I agreed to host a conversation after service today about how we speak science of mind to our friends and our neighbors and curious strangers. So if anybody wants to hang out with me for a few minutes afterwards, I'm willing to hang out with you and talk about this topic. If this is something that you're interested in figuring out how to do for yourself, because it is up to us, and each one of us has a unique story to tell to our world as we are living in this most bizarre and unusual time. So lastly, before I close, I want to mention the book that Keith's group started studying yesterday. Pat mentioned it in the host script. The book is by Frederick Bales. It's called Hidden Power for Human Problems. Frederick, I'm going to start calling him Freddie soon, is a colleague of Ernest Holmes. They wrote books together. They wrote curriculum together. This is a very dynamic book. Don't get distracted because it was written in the 50s, 1950s. Like everything we teach and practice here, it's simple, but it's not easy. Bales wrote in the first section, which I imagine Keith's group talked about yesterday, "Any law is your master until you understand it. As soon as a law is understood, it becomes your servant. But you cannot master a law just by hearing what it will do. You must study it and put it to the test by practicing it. And you must be absolutely honest with yourself. Never avoid the truth. Never excuse yourself. Never run away from the disclosure of hidden, unworthy motives. Never shrink from the necessary steps to be taken in the conquest, I don't like the word conquest, but that's the one he used, of your lesser self. I think of it more encompassing and embracing and including and making that lesser self comfortable so that it's not desperately trying to control things. but that's his language. And then the last sentence, you must remake yourself clear to your very center by careful reading, observation, and sincere effort. If this book intrigues you, you can get it on Kindle. I'm sure you can get it quickly. And you are willing to engage in this practice, because it is practice and it is work, but it's really good work when we decide to do it. I'm sure you can still join this group. It meets Saturday mornings at 10 and it's in Keith's Zoom room. We actually have 3 different Zoom rooms for all the things that we have going on here. So I want to close with 3 things. 1, a quote from a book called You Are Still Here, Zen Teachings by Kyojin Carlson, page 5. When a seed sprouts, it does so in the dark, down under the ground where it's wet. Without fail, the shoot goes up and the root goes down. It does this without any external prompting, other than gravity and the warmth of the earth. The motivation is innate in the seed itself. True aspiration and all real practice come from this same place. It is intrinsic, and in the same way grass has the power to break up concrete and shatter rocks. It can shatter habitual energy and shift the whole earth. This aspiration, or mind that seeks the way, sprouts from this intrinsic place, despite conditions, and will shatter our false conceptions. It is the only thing that can really change the world. And the second, a quote from Goethe. I looked him up because I couldn't remember exactly who he was. And Wikipedia says he was the greatest German literary something. Anyway, his quote, a man can stand for anything except a succession of ordinary days. I thought it was interesting. Are we putting up with ordinary days because we have the power and the possibility to create something new all the time? And then the last thing, Susan shared this quote yesterday from Tony Robbins. And if you don't like Tony Robbins, ignore that Tony Robbins said it and listen to what it says. Live fully while you're here. Experience everything. Take care of yourself and your friends. Have fun, be crazy, be weird. Go out and screw up. You're going to anyway, so you might as well enjoy the process. Take the opportunity to learn from your mistakes. Find the cause of your problem and eliminate it. Don't try to be perfect. Just be an excellent example of being human. So that's where we are. Each one of us has an opportunity to be an excellent example of a human. And we have this opportunity every single day, every single moment. And when we screw up, because we will, we have an opportunity to pick ourselves up and try again. Do that. Bless yourself and bless us all. Thank you. So I'm going to roll into the prayer. If I gave you any food for thought that was useful, hold it in your mind. Imagine how you want to add to your own quality of life by enacting it. Whether it's something that you do internally or some connection you reinforce outside of yourself, it's all God. While I say the words, I breathe into this whole and holy space, and I remember that one mind, that one heart, that one love, that one life, that one peace, power, joy, lives as me, lives as each and all, and it expresses through me, and it expresses through each and all. And as we become more conscious of that, we have a greater experience of it. We have a greater understanding of it. We have a greater, more abundant life, more joyful life, and a more feeling of being here, of knowing why we're here, and being able to explore and share and experience this great good that wishes to be expressed by each of us. So I breathe that thought in, I breathe that feeling in, I breathe that awareness in, and I let it infiltrate all the cells of my body, so that when my mind forgets, when my brain forgets, there's something in me that knows, something in me that can remind me, something in each one that can remind each one that already we have all the capacity, all the ability, all the skills that we need in order to have the life of our choosing and to be present as we wish to be in the world. And I celebrate this awareness. I bless each and all of us as we step into our next greater yet to be. And I know that as we do this, we benefit, and everyone we engage with does too. I celebrate this opportunity to practice. I celebrate this opportunity to know and be and do. And I know for each one who is having a hard time or is in the space where things are difficult, they also have this depth and this profound quality of love and joy and life. And I know that it expresses through each and all at all times, seeing the goodness of life as it manifests in all beings. I relax into this great good and I let it be. And so it is.